the service cart slams into the galley wall with a metallic crash that makes half the cabin jump. Plastic trays clatter across the aisle, skittering under seats as the Boeing 777 shudders through a pocket of rough air. But that's 20 minutes from now. Right now, at Gate B12, Victor Chandler is pointing at a woman in a faded gray hoodie and worn sneakers, his voice carrying across the boarding area like he owns the airport itself. Security. Why is she even allowed near first class? Look at her. This is a joke. The woman Amethyst Pierce stands perfectly still. No reaction, no defense. Just a flicker of her eyes toward the emergency exit placard behind the gate agent. 12 rows to the nearest exit, 13 to the overwing. Her lips move soundlessly, counting, breathing steady. A passenger nearby lifts her phone, already filming. Patricia Dalton smirks as she taps record angling for the best shot of what she assumes will be a humiliating security confrontation. Nobody notices Amethyst's hands. Nobody sees the way her fingers trace the strap of her duffel bag with the unconscious precision of someone who's carried gear through war zones. Nobody pays attention to the way she positions herself. Body-angled exit routes, mapped weight, balanced on the balls of her feet. They only see the hoodie, the scuffed shoes, the silence. They have no idea what silence sounds like at 37,000 feet when everything goes wrong. Amethyst boards without ceremony, moving through the jet bridge with the economy of motion that military training drills into your bones until it's more natural than walking. Her duffel bag, canvas military surplus. The logo long faded hangs from one shoulder. No rolling luggage, no designer carry-on. Just the essentials packed tight enough to fit under the seat in front of her. She passes through first class on her way to row 10C. Victor Chandler occupies 2A, his Italian leather briefcase, already stowed his Rolex, catching the overhead lights as he adjusts his cufflinks. His wife Melody sits beside him, scrolling through her phone with manicured nails that probably cost more than Amethyst's entire wardrobe. Victor watches Amethyst pass. Doesn't say anything aloud this time, but his lips move as he leans toward Melody. They're really lowering standards. Melody glances up, takes in the hoodie and jeans, returns to her phone without comment. Her silence is agreement enough. 3 rows back, Grant Thatcher, chief financial officer of an investment bank first-class ticket, purchased with company miles, nudges his seatmate and stage whispers loud enough for half the cabin to hear. Bet she found that ticket in a trash can. Scattered laughter ripples through the premium section. Amethyst reaches row 10, stows her duffel overhead, settles into her window seat. The motion is automatic. Check the seat pocket for safety card, confirm the location of the nearest exit. 10 rows forward. Left side, verify the oxygen mask deployment panel overhead. Her fingers brush the armrest, testing its stability. Old habits. She unzips the hoodie as the cabin warms, underneath a plain gray long-sleeve shirt. But when she pushes up the sleeves, a thin scar traces down her left wrist, jagged, the kind that comes from shrapnel knot surgery. The skin around it is slightly paler, newer tissue over old trauma. Patricia Dalton, already seated 2 rows up, zooms in with her phone camera. Snaps a photo. Opens her group chat, 3 other first-class passengers, all women who lunch and judge in equal measure. Patricia typing, "Guess who's in premium economy looks homeless. Should we alert the crew?" Response from Janet, "OMG. Is that a prison tattoo, Patricia worse? Looks like drug track marks." The messages fly. Judgments rendered in seconds. Verdicts passed without trial. Amethyst doesn't see the phones. She's already moved on to the next ritual seatbelt. But not the normal way. She threads it across her chest in a cross-body configuration, military style, the way pilots strap in when they expect to fly through hell. The buckle clicks with finality. Edwin Murphy, 76 years old Vietnam veteran, row 9B, watches from across the aisle. He's seen that motion before. 18 months flying, C-130s out of Da Nang taught him to recognize people who've been strapped into aircraft where survival wasn't guaranteed. His wife Margaret notices his expression. "What is it?" Edwin shakes his head slightly, says nothing, but his eyes stay on the woman in 10C as she closes. Her eyes leans back and begins breathing in a measured rhythm. 4 counts in hold, 4 counts out. The kind of breathing you learn when panic will kill you faster than enemy fire. Grant Thatcher is still chuckling in first class, already composing a story for his colleagues about the characters you meet on red-eye flights. Victor Chandler has moved on, reviewing quarterly projections on his tablet, secure in the knowledge that his world makes sense. Success wears tailored suits. Failure wears hoodies from Goodwill. None of them know they're wrong. Not yet. The Boeing 777 pushes back from gate B12 at 11:47 p.m. engines spooling with a low rumble that vibrates through 200 feet of aluminum and composite. Captain Owen Fletcher's voice comes over the PA system, smooth and practiced after 21 years of commercial flying. "Good evening, folks. This is Captain Fletcher from the flight deck. We're looking at a flight time of 2 hours 15 minutes to Seattle tonight, cruising at flight level 370. Weather looks good. Once we climb above these clouds, should be smooth sailing all the way to the Pacific Northwest. Sit back, relax, and we'll have you on the ground before you know it." The cabin settles into the familiar rhythm of departure. Overhead, bins click shut. Flight attendants move through final compliance checks. Phones switch to airplane mode. The Boeing taxis toward runway 34 left, its twin engines humming with restrained power. Amethyst keeps her eyes closed, but her other senses remain sharp. She tracks the taxi route by the turns, left out of the gate straight for 800 feet, right turn onto taxiway Echo. The vibration changes when they transition from concrete to asphalt. Small details, irrelevant to most passengers. But to someone trained to fly by instruments when everything else fails, environmental awareness is survival. 10 minutes after takeoff, the first turbulence hits. Not severe, just enough to make the cabin lights flicker and send a ripple of nervous laughter through the passengers. The seatbelt sign chimes back on. Amethyst's hand moves without conscious thought, reaching across the empty middle seat to the elderly man in 10A. His seatbelt has come loose during the jolt. She's reaching to help him refasten it when he jerks away. "Don't touch me." His voice is sharp, frightened. Amethyst withdraws her hand immediately. "Sorry, your belt came undone." The man fumbles with it himself, won't meet her eyes. She's invaded his space. Stranger. Woman in shabby clothes. He wants distance. 3 rows forward, Victor Chandler sees the interaction, makes a decision. He presses the call button, and when flight attendant Kelvin Hayes appears, Victor speaks in a low voice that carries authority. "Keep an eye on that woman in 10C. She's acting strange, touching other passengers." Kelvin glances back, sees Amethyst sitting quietly, eyes closed again. "Has she done something concerning, sir?" "Just watch her. I have a bad feeling." Kelvin nods. Years of customer service have taught him to take passenger concerns seriously, even when they seem unfounded, and continues down the aisle. But he makes a mental note. Row 10C, woman in hoodie. The PA crackles. First Officer Gianna Brooks this time, younger voice, less polished. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting some slight chop ahead as we climb through these cloud layers. Nothing to worry about, just keeping the seatbelt sign on for a bit longer." Amethyst's lips move barely audible. "Squawk 77, standard." The words are automatic, a fragment of procedure leaking through. But she catches herself, goes silent. Edwin Murphy, 2 rows back, hears it anyway. His eyebrows rise. Squawk 7700 is the transponder code for emergencies. Why would a civilian passenger know that the turbulence increases? The Boeing rocks gently, nothing outside normal parameters, but enough to make less experienced flyers grip their armrests. Amethyst reaches for her duffel bag under the seat in front of her. The cabin temperature has dropped air conditioning too aggressive and pulls out a thicker jacket. As she does, something falls from an inner pocket. A small metallic disc about the size of a silver dollar. It hits the floor with a soft tink and rolls toward the aisle. Edwin sees it before Amethyst can retrieve it. Challenge coin, Air Force emblem, the kind issued to squadron members carried like talismans, traded like currency among pilots. Amethyst scoops it up quickly, pockets it, zips the duffel shut. Doesn't look around to see if anyone noticed. But Edwin noticed. And now pieces are clicking into place that don't quite fit the picture Victor Chandler has painted. That's a squadron coin. Active duty or veteran. Either way, she's military. He says nothing, just settles back into his seat and watches the woman in 10C with new interest. In first class, Patricia Dalton has taken 3 more photos, adds them to her ongoing group chat. Patricia, she's obsessed with the exits. Keeps looking at the emergency cards. Definitely suspicious. Janet, should we say something to the captain, Patricia? Let's wait. This is going to make great content. Victor scrolls through his own phone, composing an email to his assistant about Monday's board meeting. The woman in 10C has already faded from his immediate concern. Just another forgettable face in a forgettable seat. He has no idea how unforgettable she's about to become. 25 minutes into the flight, the turbulence stops being polite. The Boeing lurches sideways hard enough that overhead bins rattle, and a child in row 14 starts crying. The seat belt sign, which had briefly gone off, chimes back on with urgency. First Officer Gianna's voice returns to the PA tighter now. Folks, we're encountering some moderate chop as we navigate around a developing weather system. Please remain seated with your seatbelts securely fastened. Moderate. That's the official term. What passengers feel is something closer to being inside a washing machine on the spin cycle. The Boeing drops 50 feet in 2 seconds. Stomachs rise into throats. Someone in the back screams. More children cry. The flight attendants mid-service abandon the beverage carts and buckle into jump seats. Amethyst doesn't move. Not a flinch, not a grip on the armrest. She sits perfectly upright, hands resting on her thighs, breathing unchanged. But her eyes are open now, and they're tracking something invisible to everyone else. She's counting. Not the seconds between jolts, though, that's part of it, but the vibrations, the frequency, the way the airframe flexes and recovers. She's measuring structural stress the way a musician measures tempo, feeling the patterns in the chaos. 0.8 hertz, wing flex nominal. Turbulence, moderate transitioning severe. Dutch roll oscillation minimal. Pilots are hand-flying autopilot disconnected. All of this processed in silence in the space between breaths. Dr. Marina Foster, cardiac surgeon, row 7A, has been watching the woman in 10C for the past 10 minutes. Something about her caught Marina's attention earlier. The way she moved through the aisle, the efficiency of her motions, but now it's the hands that hold Marina's focus. Amethyst's right hand rests on the armrest, palm down, and Marina, trained to observe minute details during surgery, sees what most wouldn't notice: thick calluses on the first and second fingers, right at the points of pressure. The kind that develop from gripping something hard and cylindrical for thousands of hours. Marina has seen those calluses before. Walter Reed Medical Center, treating military pilots with hand injuries. The control stick of a fighter jet leaves a signature on your hands that doesn't fade. She's a pilot, Marina thinks. Or was. The PA crackles again. Gianna's voice trying for calm and missing by just enough that trained ears catch the stress underneath. We're deviating slightly for weather. Nothing to be concerned about, just giving us a smoother ride. Amethyst's lips move, this time slightly louder. Deviation vector 270, smart. Edwin Murphy hears it. knows exactly what it means a westward heading change to avoid the worst of the system. He nods to himself, confirming what the challenge coin already told him. But Victor Chandler, scanning the cabin from his first-class throne, sees only a woman muttering to herself. He leans toward Patricia Dalton, who's 2 rows back in premium economy, now phone still in hand. "Get this," Victor says, gesturing toward Amethyst. She's talking to herself now. Obsessed with the exits, won't stop staring at the emergency equipment. "I'm telling you, something's off." Patricia zooms in, captures a photo of Amethyst's face, eyes sharp-focused, tracking the aircraft's motion with the intensity of someone reading a language no one else can see. Patricia group chat. This woman is definitely unstable, talking to herself, staring at safety equipment like she's planning something. Grant Thatcher. "Should we alert the flight attendants? She could be dangerous." Victor. "Let's document everything first. If something happens, we'll have proof we warned them." The turbulence intensifies. The Boeing shakes hard enough that even Victor's confident smirk wavers. His wife Melody grips his arm knuckles white. "Owen, is this normal?" "It's fine," Victor says, though he's not entirely sure. Captain knows what he's doing. 3 rows behind them in the cockpit that neither Victor nor Patricia nor Grant can see, Captain Owen Fletcher is gripping the control yoke with both hands, sweat starting to bead on his forehead despite the cool cockpit air. His chest feels tight. Has for the past 5 minutes. He assumes it's stress weather deviations always spike the adrenaline, but there's a heaviness in his left arm that's new. Concerning. "Gianna," he says to his first officer voice, steady through training. "Keep an eye on the weather radar. This system is building faster than forecast." "Yes, sir." Gianna adjusts the radar tilt, trying to find a gap in the returns. The screen is mostly green with patches of yellow and red. Not ideal, but manageable. For now. Back in the cabin, Amethyst closes her eyes again. She's gathered enough information. The pilots are competent. The deviation was textbook. The turbulence is atmospheric, not structural. Nothing to do but wait it out. But something in the back of her mind, that combat pilot instinct that never fully shuts off, whispers a warning. Weather's moving fast. Pattern's wrong. This isn't a normal front. She breathes, counts, waits. And in first class, Victor Chandler returns to his quarterly reports, confident that whatever minor drama the woman in 10C represents, it's contained, manageable, irrelevant to his carefully ordered world. He's made a lot of assumptions in his 52 years. Most have worked out. This one won't. 34 minutes into the flight, Captain Owen Fletcher feels the first spike of pain lance through his chest. It's not subtle. Not the kind of discomfort you can ignore or attribute to bad airport coffee. This is a vice closing around his sternum, squeezing with enough force to steal his breath. His left arm goes numb from shoulder to fingertips. Cold sweat breaks across his forehead despite the cool cockpit air. "Captain," Gianna's voice comes from far away, though she's sitting 2 feet to his right. Owen tries to respond. His mouth opens. Words don't come. Just a strangled sound that doesn't belong to him. The pain intensifies, radiating down his spine up into his jaw. His vision tunnels at the edges. "Captain Fletcher." Gianna's hand is on his shoulder now, shaking him. Terror bleeding through her professional training. Owen's hands slip from the yoke. His body slumps forward, dead weight against the harness straps. The Boeing, no longer under active human control, begins a gentle roll to the right. Autopilot alarm chirps. Altitude deviation. Heading deviation. Mechanical concern without emotion. Gianna grabs the yoke, corrects the roll, levels the wings. Her hands are shaking. She's 27 years old with 20 months of commercial flying experience, and she has never been solely responsible for a wide-body aircraft with 183 souls on board and a captain who might be dying 6 inches away from her. She keys the PA, and her voice, trained to sound calm, failing at the edges, fills the cabin. Medical emergency in the cockpit. Any doctors on board, please identify yourselves immediately. The effect is instant. Panic spreads through the cabin like fire through dry brush. Passengers look at each other with wide eyes. Children who'd been sleeping wake up crying. The turbulence, which had settled to a dull rumble, suddenly feels ominous rather than routine. Dr. Marina Foster is out of her seat before Gianna finishes the sentence. She's been a cardiac surgeon for 23 years, and she knows exactly what that tone means. Someone is dying or about to. "I'm a cardiac surgeon," Marina calls out, already moving toward the cockpit. Her voice carries authority that cuts through the rising fear. Kelvin Hayes, the senior flight attendant, meets her at the galley. His Navy corpsman training kicks in assess triage act. He opens the cockpit door without hesitation, and Marina steps through into controlled chaos. Captain Owen Fletcher is unconscious. Skin gray, breathing shallow and irregular, Gianna is flying with one hand, trying to check Owen's pulse with the other, doing neither well. "Get him flat," Marina orders, dropping to her knees in the cramped space. "I need the AED and medical kit, now." Kelvin is already moving, pulling the automated external defibrillator from its wall mount, grabbing the red medical bag from overhead storage. In the cabin, the panic is building. Aurora Chen, 8 years old, traveling alone to see her grandmother, turns to flight attendant Lavender Quinn, with tears streaming down her small face. "Are we going to crash?" Lavender crouches beside her, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "No, sweetie. We have another pilot, and everything's going to be fine." It's the kind of lie adults tell children when they don't know what else to say. Victor Chandler stands up in row 2A. He's built a career on taking control of situations when lesser men hesitate. This, he decides, is one of those moments. "Everyone stay calm." His voice booms through first class, carrying back into premium economy. "I've flown in private jets for 20 years. I know how these situations work. We need experienced people up front, not..." He pauses, eyes scanning the cabin, until they land on Amethyst, still seated in 10C. "Not whoever." The implication hangs in the air, ugly and obvious. Grant Thatcher, emboldened by Victor's lead, unbuckles and stands. "I've logged over 250 hours as a passenger in luxury aircraft. I can assist the co-pilot if needed." 250 hours as a passenger. The absurdity would be comical if the situation weren't so dire. The PA crackles again, Gianna's voice thinner now, stretched tight over barely controlled fear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a serious situation. Captain Fletcher is incapacitated. I'm flying the aircraft, but I need immediate assistance from anyone with military aviation experience. Please identify yourselves." The cabin goes silent, everyone waiting, hoping someone will stand up. Someone qualified, someone who looks the part. Amethyst opens her eyes. She's been listening, assessing, calculating since Gianna's first announcement. The medical emergency, the first officer's panic, the weather still building outside, the fuel state they were at when she last heard an update. All the variables clicking into place like coordinates on a targeting grid. She stands, doesn't announce herself, doesn't wave for attention, just rises from her seat and begins walking toward the cockpit with the measured pace of someone moving through a familiar drill. Every eye in the cabin tracks her movement. Victor sees her approaching and steps into the aisle, blocking Kelvin's path as the flight attendant comes back from the cockpit with the medical kit. "Wait, who the hell is she?" Victor's voice carries outrage and disbelief in equal measure. "You're going to let some random woman into the cockpit? Have you lost your mind?" Kelvin, torn between passenger management and the dying captain behind the locked door, hesitates for one critical second. That's all it takes for the cabin to erupt. Amethyst stops 3 feet from the cockpit door. Her voice when she speaks is quiet, calm, the kind of calm that comes from making life and death decisions when the world is on fire around you. "First Officer Brooks, I'm Captain Amethyst Pierce, former Air Force. Call sign Phantom. I can help. Gianna's face appears in the cockpit doorway, pale and slick with sweat. Her eyes take in the woman in the faded hoodie and worn jeans, trying to reconcile the appearance with the words just spoken. Captain Pierce. The doubt in her voice is unmistakable. Victor pushes forward physically, placing himself between Amethyst and the cockpit. Don't listen to her. She was harassed by security at the gate. She's probably mentally unstable. I demand a credential check before you let anyone into that cockpit. Patricia Dalton has her phone out already live streaming. Her voice loud and performative for her followers fills the forward cabin. You guys, this is insane. They're actually considering letting a homeless woman into the cockpit. This is how people die. The comments on her live stream explode. Hundreds of viewers watching in real time, most echoing Patricia's sentiment. Some calling for someone to take control. Others already composing their final messages. Dr. Marina, still on her knees performing CPR on Captain Owen, looks up from the cockpit floor. Her voice cuts through the chaos with surgical precision. Mr. Chandler, I worked at Walter Reed Medical Center for 10 years, treating combat pilots. This woman has military bearing. Let her speak. It's the first crack in Victor's certainty, but not enough to move him. He holds his ground, literally blocking the cockpit entrance with his body. Amethyst doesn't push past him, doesn't raise her voice, just shifts her attention to Gianna, pilot to pilot. First officer, what's our current altitude, speed, and fuel state? The question bypasses Victor entirely. It's technical specific, the kind of information that only matters if you know what to do with it. And the way Amethyst asks it, with the clipped efficiency of a military briefing, triggers something in Gianna's training. Flight level, 370 speed, 450 knots, fuel 12,000 pounds. The response is automatic, delivered in the same cadence Gianna learned in flight school. Amethyst nods once. Reduce thrust to idle. Let the aircraft settle into the chop. You're burning fuel, fighting the turbulence. Grant Thatcher's voice erupts from first class. No procedure says maintain assigned altitude. She doesn't know what she's doing. Victor seizes on this, turning back to the cockpit. See, she's giving instructions that violate basic procedure. First Officer Brooks, I'm a paying customer, and I'm telling you, do not let this woman near the controls. Amethyst steps closer to the cockpit entrance, reaches her left hand out toward the throttle quadrant, demonstrating the adjustment she's recommending. The hand is shaking. Not a small tremor. A visible, undeniable shake that makes her fingers vibrate against the air. Victor sees it, seizes on it like a predator spotting wounded prey. Look, her hand is shaking. She's not fit to fly. This woman is disabled. Derek Sullivan, the architect from Row 4C, has his phone out recording. He captures the tremor in high definition, posts it to Twitter before the video even finishes. His caption, "Unbelievable, they're trusting our lives to someone with a disability. This is criminal." The post goes viral in 90 seconds. Gianna stares at Amethyst's trembling hand. The doubt that was a whisper before becomes a shout. She's been trained to assess crew fitness, and visible hand tremors are an automatic disqualification. Captain Pierce, your hand. Amethyst pulls her hand back, tucks it against her side. Her voice doesn't change. Still calm, still steady. The tremor is physical, not mental. Nerve damage from Afghanistan. Shrapnel severed peripheral nerves in my left arm. She meets Gianna's eyes, holds the contact. Doesn't affect my judgment. Doesn't affect my ability to fly. Your captain is dying. We have 45 minutes of fuel. This storm is intensifying faster than forecast. You decide, trust me or trust them. She gestures toward Victor and his assembled group of concerned first-class passengers, none of whom have ever landed an aircraft in their lives. Dr. Marina calls up from the floor, her hand still pressing rhythmic compressions on Captain Owen's chest. First officer. This man needs a hospital within 30 minutes, or he's not going to make it. Whatever you're going to decide, decide now. Gianna looks at Captain Owen Gray unconscious, possibly already gone. Looks at Dr. Marina, who's endorsed the woman in the hoodie. Looks at Amethyst, whose hand is shaking, but whose eyes are absolutely certain. Then she looks at Victor Chandler, who's never flown anything except as a passenger. The choice when it comes down to it isn't really a choice at all. "I'll follow your lead, ma'am." Gianna's voice is soft but final. Victor explodes. "This is murder. You're murdering all of us. I'll sue you. I'll sue the airline. I'll sue everyone involved in this insanity." Grant Thatcher joins in his voice, high with panic. "We're all going to die because you're too politically correct to tell her no." Derek is already typing his next tweet. First officer just gave control to a disabled woman with no credentials, recording everything for the lawsuit. Patricia's live stream viewership has hit 15,000. The comments are a mix of prayers, outrage, and people telling their loved ones goodbye. But Gianna has made her decision. She steps aside, clearing the path to the cockpit. "Captain Pierce, the aircraft is yours." Amethyst moves past Victor, who's still shouting, still threatening lawsuits and investigations, and everything his money and influence can bring to bear, and steps into the cockpit. The door closes behind her, and in the cabin, the passengers are left with nothing but turbulence fear and the certainty that they've just made either the best or worst decision of their lives. The cockpit is cramped with 4 people instead of 2. Dr. Marina is still on the floor with Captain Owen, whose skin has gone from gray to nearly translucent. Gianna is in the right seat, hands hovering over the yoke like she's afraid to fully commit to either taking control or giving it up. Amethyst slides into the left seat, the captain's seat, and her hands move across the instrument panel with the fluid efficiency of muscle memory. Airspeed, altitude, heading, fuel, engine parameters, weather radar, navigation display. The scan takes 3 seconds and tells her everything she needs to know. None of it is good. The radio crackles. Denver Center, their assigned air traffic control facility, with news that makes the situation exponentially worse. Flight 447 Denver Center. Be advised, severe weather developing your route. Multiple aircraft diverting. Recommend immediate descent and vector south to avoid the system. Gianna reaches for the transmit button, but Amethyst is already keying the mic. Denver Center Flight 447. Unable to vector south, fuel state won't support extended deviation. Request direct routing to nearest suitable alternate. Even as she says it, she's watching the weather radar display bloom into a solid mass of red. Not patches, not cells. A continuous wall of returns so intense the radar can't differentiate between precipitation types anymore. "Captain Pierce." Gianna's voice is thin. "Our weather radar just went white. Complete whiteout. I can't see the storm structure." Amethyst adjusts the radar tilt, gain the range. Nothing helps. The screen is saturated, overwhelmed by returns that exceed the system's ability to process them. "Radar's saturated," she confirms. Her voice is matter-of-fact clinical. "We're flying into a Category 5 supercell. Hail icing wind shear over 150 knots. This thing shouldn't exist in October, but here it is." As if responding to her words, a warning light illuminates on the engine display. Amber, insistent. "Engine 2, ice detected." Gianna reads from the ICAS screen. "Anti-ice on both engines." Amethyst orders, her hand still trembling, moving to the appropriate switches. "Monitor N1 RPM. If it drops below 70%, we lose that engine." Denver Center comes back, and the controller's voice has lost its professional detachment. "Flight 447. Salt Lake City International is below minimums, multiple aircraft holding. Boise has closed their runway due to snow removal. Grand Junction is reporting 0-0 conditions." The message is clear, there's nowhere to go. Denver Center 447. "What about Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado Springs?" Pause. 5 seconds of dead air while the controller checks. 447. Peterson is reporting runway 13 left available. Winds 330 at 30, gusting 45. Visibility 1/2 mile in snow showers. Ceiling 200 feet. Approach minimums are 201/2. It's legal, but barely. Legal, but barely. In aviation, that's sometimes all you get. Amethyst is already calculating. Peterson is 90 miles southeast. With their current fuel state and the headwinds they're facing, they'll have exactly one approach. One chance. No go-around. No second attempt. From the cabin, Victor's voice carries through the open cockpit door. Kelvin must have left the intercom hot. If she crashes this plane, I'll sue her estate and the airline. This is criminal negligence. Amethyst doesn't react. Just reaches for the guard frequency selector, 121.5 megahertz, the emergency frequency that every military aircraft monitors worldwide. First officer, tune guard frequency, 121.5. I need to talk to Peterson Air Force Base directly. Guyana's hand moves to the radio panel, makes the adjustment. The frequency change is silent on their end, but somewhere out there, military controllers just heard their transmission. And if Colonel Marcus Donovan, call sign, Hammer Amethyst's former squadron commander, is listening, he's about to get the shock of his life. Descend to flight level 250. Amethyst instructs her voice steady, despite the tremor in her left hand. Reduce speed to 280 knots. We're going to ride the downdrafts instead of fighting them. Gianna hesitates for exactly 2 seconds, long enough to process the instruction, short enough to show trust, then moves the thrust levers back and pushes the yoke forward. The Boeing's nose drops. The descent rate climbs to 2,000 feet per minute. The change is immediate. Where before the aircraft was bucking against every air current, now it moves with the flow. The turbulence is still there, still violent enough to rattle overhead bins and test seatbelt tensile strength, but the motion becomes more predictable, less chaotic. Dr. Marina, still performing chest compressions on Captain Owen, feels the difference. Whatever you just did, it's working. His pulse is weak but steady. Your call just bought us time. In the cabin, Edwin Murphy, Vietnam veteran, 76 years old, flew C-130s through monsoons and surface-to-air fire, leans toward his wife, Margaret, and speaks quietly. That's a combat pilot move. Let gravity work for you instead of burning fuel fighting physics. She knows what she's doing. Margaret nods, gripping his hand. Do you think we'll make it? If anyone can get us down, it's her. Victor Chandler, still standing in the aisle, despite Kelvin's repeated requests to return to his seat, shakes his head violently. She's guessing this is all guesswork. We're still going to die. But for the first time since this crisis began, other passengers are pushing back. A middle-aged woman in row 12B turns around and speaks with the exhausted authority of someone who's had enough. Maybe you should shut up and let her work. Several passengers murmur agreement. Victor's alliance is fracturing. The performance he's been giving is losing its audience. In the cockpit, Amethyst allows herself one small exhale of relief. The aircraft is stable. Captain Owen is alive. They have enough fuel to reach Peterson. For now, that's enough. The warning comes without preamble. Engine 2, N1 RPM, which had been holding steady at 85%, drops to 70, then 65, then 60. The rate of decay is exponential, catastrophic. Ice has built up inside the engine, cowling faster than the anti-ice system can melt it. Now that ice is breaking free in chunks, getting sucked into the compressor blades, destroying them from the inside. A continuous warning horn blares through the cockpit. Master warning lights illuminate in angry red. Engine 2 flameout. Gianna's voice cracks on the last word. Ice ingestion caused compressor stall. Amethyst's hands are already moving. Fuel cutoff lever for engine 2 to off position. Fire switch confirmed normal. Emergency checklist items executed from memory because there's no time to read them off a card. Secure engine 2. We're single engine now. Her voice could be discussing lunch options. Recalculate fuel for Peterson. No go-arounds. We get one shot at this. The radio crackles. Denver Center professional concern giving way to genuine alarm. Flight 447, we've lost your transponder. Squawky dent. Amethyst reaches for the transponder dials in 7700, the emergency code, the one that tells every controller in every aircraft in the sky that you're in trouble. Denver 447, squawking 7700, declaring emergency. Single-engine pilot incapacitated 183 souls on board fuel for 30 minutes. From the cabin, Victor's voice rises to a shriek. Single engine, we're dead. This is her fault. She did this. Grant Thatcher joins in his earlier bravado dissolved into pure terror. I told you not to let her in there. I told you. Inside the cockpit, Dr. Marina's voice cuts through the panic. Captain Owens and VFib, I need the AED charged now. The automated external defibrillator charges with a rising whine. Analyzing rhythm. Shock advised. Clear patient. Marina presses the button. Captain Owen's body convulses. The shock delivers 200 joules of electricity straight to his heart, trying to reset the chaotic rhythm back to something survivable. Still in V-fib, Marina reports. Charging again. Amethyst doesn't look down. Can't. She's hand-flying the aircraft now. Autopilot disconnected one engine, producing thrust the other, a dead weight, creating asymmetric drag that wants to roll them inverted. First officer, I'm taking the aircraft. You monitor vitals and fuel. We're going to Peterson on one engine, zero visibility, with a storm that wants to kill us. No room for error. No second chances. Gianna looks at her, really looks at her, and sees something that transcends the trembling hand and the shabby clothes. She sees absolute certainty. You have the aircraft, Captain. Kelvin's voice comes over the PA, trying and failing to sound calm. Ladies and gentlemen, secure all loose items. Brace position will be called if necessary. Flight attendants prepare the cabin for emergency landing. In the back of the plane, Aurora Chen, 8 years old, traveling alone, terrified beyond the capacity of her young mind to process, screams through her tears. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Lavender Quinn holds her, whispering reassurances that sound hollow even to her own ears. Amethyst's eyes track across the instruments. Engine 1 is holding at 90%. Fuel shows 9,000 pounds remaining. Distance to Peterson shows 68 miles. Weather radar is still solid red. They're descending through 25,000 feet into the heart of a storm system that's already torn apart the sky. Her left hand trembles on the yoke. Her right hand adjusts the throttle with microscopic precision. And in her mind, she's already speaking to someone who might not be listening. Hammer if you're on guard. I need you now. If you're sitting there wondering whether a single engine can bring a Boeing 777 down safely through a blizzard with zero visibility, you're not alone. Everyone on that plane is asking the same question. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if your heart's racing right now, hit that subscribe button because part 2 is coming, and I promise you what happens next will redefine everything you thought you knew about impossible odds. Amethyst's world narrows to the instruments in front of her. Autopilot has been disconnected for the past 12 minutes. The computer can't compensate for single-engine asymmetric thrust in conditions like these. This requires human hands, human judgment, the kind of flying they don't teach in commercial training programs because commercial pilots aren't supposed to end up here. Her left hand grips the yoke despite the tremor. Her right hand manages the throttle on engine 1 with microscopic adjustments. Her feet work the rudder pedals, constantly countering the yaw that comes from having thrust on only one side of the aircraft. It's exhausting, relentless. There's no autopilot to give her a break. No co-pilot experienced enough to take over. Just her and the machine and the storm trying to kill them both. Fuel state, she says, without taking her eyes off the attitude indicator. Gianna scans the display. Fuel 10,000 pounds, 28 minutes to Peterson at current consumption. 28 minutes of fuel. 12 minutes of flying time to reach the airport. 16 minutes of buffer that sounds comfortable until you remember they still have to descend, configure, and fly an instrument approach in visibility measured in hundreds of feet. The math is tight. Survivable, but tight. Call Peterson Tower. Tell them we need precision approach runway 13 left emergency foam on the runway, crash fire rescue on standby. Gianna keys the radio, her voice steadier now than it's been since Captain Owen collapsed. Having Amethyst in command, having someone who acts like they've been here before, has stabilized something in her that training alone couldn't provide. Peterson Tower Flight 447 declaring emergency. Single engine pilot medical incapacitation requesting immediate ILS approach, runway 13 left. The response comes immediately. Peterson has been tracking them since they squawked emergency. The controller's voice is professional, but tight the way it gets when the situation is bad, and everyone knows it. Flight 447 Peterson Tower. Cleared ILS runway 13 left. Winds 320 at 30 knots, gusting to 45. Visibility 1/2 mile in moderate snow. Ceiling 200 feet. Emergency equipment is positioning now. Fire trucks, ambulances, foam trucks, all standing by. Gianna copies the clearance, reads it back. Verbatim. The ritual of radio communication, providing structure in chaos. Dr. Marina's voice rises from the cockpit floor where she's been working on Captain Owen for the past 40 minutes. Captain Pierce. His pulse is weak but steady. The AED shocked him back into rhythm, but he needs a hospital within 15 minutes or we're going to lose him again. 15 minutes. Amethyst doesn't respond aloud, just thinks it. 15 minutes. We have 12 to touchdown. 3 minutes to get him off the aircraft. It'll be close. Everything about this situation is close. Margins measured in minutes and miles and percentages of engine power. The kind of close where one more thing going wrong tips you from survival into catastrophe. But for now, right now, they're still flying, still descending toward an airport that has emergency equipment waiting, still alive. That's enough to work with. First Officer, Tune Guard Frequency 121.5. Gianna's hand pauses over the radio panel. She looks at Amethyst, confusion evident. Guard, that's the military emergency frequency. Just do it. The tone leaves no room for questions. Gianna makes the adjustment. The civilian tower frequency fades, replaced by the hiss of Guard, the frequency that every military aircraft monitors worldwide, the channel where emergencies get broadcast when everything else fails. Amethyst keys the mic. Her voice when she speaks carries a different quality, not the professional courtesy of civilian ATC communication, something harder, more direct, the voice of someone who's transmitted under fire. Peterson, approach, this is Phantom. Request direct vector and priority handling. 5 seconds of silence. Then a voice comes through the static. Male, older. Not the tower controller they'd been talking to. This is someone else, someone from the Air Force side of Peterson. Say again, call sign. The voice is careful, disbelieving. Did you say Phantom? Affirmative. Phantom, formerly 43rd Fighter Squadron. Request confirmation of identity and emergency airspace clearance. 10 seconds this time. Long enough for Gianna to look at Amethyst with something approaching shock. Long enough for the transmission to be heard in the cabin. Kelvin had left the PA system hot, and now everyone is listening to a conversation they don't fully understand, but know is important. When the voice returns, it's shaking. Not from fear. from something else entirely. Phantom, this is Hammer. We held your memorial service 3 years ago. Your parents were there. Your squadron. The general gave a speech. How the hell are you alive? Colonel Marcus Donovan, call sign Hammer, Amethyst's former squadron commander, the man who trained her to fly fighters, who pinned her captain's bars, who stood at her memorial and spoke about sacrifice and service, and the empty casket they buried because there was no body to recover. Amethyst's voice doesn't waver. Long story, Hammer. Right now, I've got 183 souls on board single-engine 00 visibility and about 10 minutes of flying time before we're committed to Peterson, whether we're ready or not. I need you to clear every aircraft within 50 miles and give me a straight-in approach. No delays, no holds, no traffic conflicts. Another pause. Shorter this time. When Hammer speaks again, his voice has shifted from shock to operational mode. Command decisions. Action over emotion. Phantom, you're cleared. All airspace within 50 miles of Peterson is being sterilized now. Priority handling authorized directly from Space Command. We're scrambling every resource we have. Emergency equipment, medical teams, the whole show. Welcome back to the fight. The transmission ends. In the cabin, the reaction is immediate. Edwin Murphy, the Vietnam veteran who suspected from the beginning, smiles quietly and murmurs to his wife. I knew it. The way she moved, the way she thought. That's a combat pilot. Dr. Marina, still on the cockpit floor but listening to everything, nods with grim satisfaction. Her instinct at Walter Reed had been right. Military bearing. You can't fake it. Victor Chandler stands frozen in the aisle. His face has gone from red with outrage to pale with understanding. The woman he dismissed as homeless, the woman he tried to keep out of the cockpit, the woman whose trembling hand he used as evidence of unfitness. She's not just a pilot. She's Phantom, presumed killed in action. Now, back from the dead and flying his aircraft through conditions that would ground every commercial pilot in the world. Grant Thatcher has gone silent. Patricia Dalton has lowered her phone. Derek Sullivan is staring at nothing his Twitter feed forgotten. They're beginning to understand what they've done, but understanding doesn't undo it, and the storm doesn't care about regret. Peterson Tower comes back on frequency, and this time there's another voice in the background. Official, formal. The kind of voice that speaks from positions of authority so high that protocol becomes unnecessary. Flight 447 Peterson Tower. We have confirmation from Air Force Personnel Command. The controller is reading from something his tone suggesting this information came from somewhere far up the chain. Captain Amethyst, Pierce 43rd. Fighter Squadron call sign Phantom presumed killed in action Afghanistan, 2021. You are cleared for any maneuver necessary to ensure safe landing. The Secretary of Defense has been briefed and is monitoring this situation personally. The Secretary of Defense. Gianna turns to look at Amethyst fully for the first time since she entered the cockpit. The woman she doubted. The woman whose shaking hand seemed like disqualification. That woman is important enough that the Secretary of Defense, the civilian head of the entire United States military, is personally watching her land a crippled airliner. Ma'am, Gianna's voice is small. You are dead. Amethyst's eyes don't leave the instruments. Her hands continue their constant adjustments, yoke, throttle, rudder trim. The flying never stops, just because revelations are happening. Captured, extracted, classified. 3 words that contain stories. Amethyst will never tell to anyone without the right clearances. Focus on the approach, First Officer. I need you calling out altitudes and airspeeds. Leave the history lesson for later. From the cabin, Victor's voice rises one more time, weaker now. Defensive rather than aggressive. The voice of a man who knows he's wrong but can't quite bring himself to admit it publicly. This doesn't change anything. she's still not qualified to fly commercial aircraft. Military training isn't the same as he stops because he's realized nobody is listening anymore. Grant Thatcher has returned to his seat, silent, face pale. Patricia Dalton has put her phone away entirely and is deleting videos with shaking fingers. Derek Sullivan whispers to his wife, barely audible, "If she doesn't land this thing, we're dead. But if we survive and that video goes viral, we're destroyed." The calculation is brutal and simple. They've spent the past 40 minutes publicly attacking a decorated combat pilot, recording it, broadcasting it, creating a permanent record of their prejudice and ignorance at the exact moment when their lives depended on the competence they were denying. Dr. Marina rises from the cockpit floor. Captain Owen finally stable enough to not require constant attention. She moves to the cockpit door and speaks loudly enough for the entire forward cabin to hear. "Mr. Chandler, that woman just got full military clearance from the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense is watching this landing personally. If you have a better idea than trusting her now would be the time to share it." Victor opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. No words come. He has no better ideas. He never did. All he had was prejudice dressed up as concern, and now everyone can see it for what it is. The authority flip is complete. Amethyst, who was nobody 20 minutes ago, is now the most important person on the aircraft. The only person who matters. And the people who tried to stop her are learning what it costs to be catastrophically wrong about someone whose competence you never bothered to confirm. The descent through 10,000 feet brings them into the heart of the storm's violence. Hail hammers the fuselage with sounds like automatic weapon fire. Each impact is a metallic percussion that makes passengers flinch and overhead bins rattle. The windscreen ices over in seconds despite the anti-ice system running at maximum. Visibility, which was already marginal, drops to absolute zero. "Ice on windscreen." Gianna reports, her voice tight. "Visibility zero. I can't see anything." "We're going raw data." Amethyst responds, her attention fixed on the instrument panel. "No visual references. I'll fly the needles. You call out altitudes every 500 feet and airspeeds every 10 knots. We're doing this on instruments all the way to touchdown." Raw data. No looking outside. Just trusting that the instruments are telling the truth about where the aircraft is in three-dimensional space, while the storm does everything possible to disorient and destroy them. Victor Chandler, who has been sitting in stunned silence since the Pentagon confirmed Amethyst's identity, suddenly stands. Something has snapped in him, not reason returning, but the opposite. Desperation. The need to do something, anything, to reassert control over a situation that spiraled completely beyond his understanding. He moves toward the cockpit, pushing past Kelvin's restraining hand. "No." Victor's voice is ragged, breaking. "I'm a paying passenger. I have the right to ensure this aircraft is flown by a certified commercial pilot, not some washed-up military." He doesn't finish the sentence. Edwin Murphy, 76 years old. Vietnam veteran survivor of surface-to-air missiles and emergency landings in rice paddies, rises from his seat with the steady purpose of someone who's had enough. "Son." Edwin's voice is quiet, but carries the weight of authority that has nothing to do with money or status. "Sit your ass down before I make you. That woman up there is the only reason you're still breathing." Victor turns ready to argue, but something in Edwin's eyes stops him. This isn't the corporate boardroom where volume and confidence carry the day. This is survival, and Edwin knows the difference. "I'll sue," Victor says, but it's weak now. A threat with no power behind it. "I'll sue the airline, the Air Force." Her personally, Dr. Marina, appears in the cockpit doorway, standing to her full height. Her surgical scrubs are stained with Captain Owen's sweat. Her hands are cramping from 45 minutes of CPR. She's exhausted, but her voice cuts through Victor's babbling with surgical precision. Mr. Chandler, I've treated hundreds of combat veterans at Walter Reed. That woman has more flight hours in worse conditions than you have an ego. She points back toward his seat. Sit down now. Kelvin steps forward, his Navy corpsman training giving him the authority to enforce compliance. Sir, FAA regulations are clear. Interference with flight crew operations is a federal offense punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Return to your seat immediately, or I will physically restrain you and have federal agents waiting when we land. The threat is real. The legal exposure is real. And for the first time since this crisis began, Victor's ability to threaten lawsuits runs into something bigger, actual federal law that doesn't care about his net worth. He stumbles back to his seat, muttering, "This is insanity." But he sits. He buckles. He goes quiet. Then the next crisis hits. Engine 1 coughs. The sound is unmistakable. A momentary interruption in the steady roar, a hiccup in the thrust that translates immediately into a yaw to the left. Amethyst's feet work the rudders, instantly compensating, but the N1 RPM gauge for Engine 1 is dropping. 85%, 80%, 75. Engine 1 power loss. Gianna's voice rises in pitch. Ice ingestion. Amethyst's response is immediate clinical, devoid of the panic that everyone else is feeling. It's not failing yet. We have maybe 5 minutes before it does. That's enough. Gianna turns to look at her, and for the first time sees something in Amethyst's expression that might be fear. Not of the storm, not of the engine, but of the timeline. Ma'am, if we lose Engine 1, we're a 350-ton glider. No thrust, no engines. We drop out of the sky like a rock. Then we don't lose it. Amethyst's hand, still trembling, still damaged, still scarred from Afghanistan, adjusts the throttle with impossible precision. Monitor N1, call out any drop below 70%, and pray if you know how. In the cabin, Aurora Chen, 8 years old, traveling alone beyond terror now, and into the place where children just want their parents, screams through her tears. I want my mommy. I want my mommy. Lavender Quinn holds the girl tight, her own tears streaming down her face, whispering reassurances that sound hollow because everyone knows what's happening. They're about to lose their second engine. They're about to become a glider in a blizzard with no way to stay airborne except the speed they're already carrying and the altitude they're already losing. Grant Thatcher. The CFO, who bragged about his passenger hours in private jets, is whispering to himself like a prayer. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Patricia Dalton has her hands clasped together, phone-forgotten lips moving in silent words to a deity she hasn't addressed since childhood. Derek Sullivan is holding his wife's hand so tightly their fingers have gone white. And Amethyst Pierce. Captain Amethyst Pierce, call sign Phantom, presumed killed in action, back from the dead to fly, one more impossible mission, is doing the only thing she knows how to do when everything is falling apart. She's flying. Amethyst makes a decision that violates every principle of commercial aviation safety. First officer, we're doing a combat spiral descent. Gianna's head snaps toward her. A what that's for fighters not. We have no choice. Amethyst's finger traces a path on the weather radar display, where the returns thin slightly. The storm has an eye 20 miles west. We descend in a tight spiral, use gravity to maintain speed with minimal thrust, then level out below the ceiling for visual approach. Ma'am, the structural stress on the airframe. This aircraft can handle it if we stay within limits. Amethyst's voice carries absolute certainty. I've done this under fire with a damaged F-16 and half my hydraulics gone. A 777 is just bigger, stronger. If I could bring home a fighter with battle damage, I can bring home this. Hammer's voice crackles over guard frequency. Phantom, we copy your plan. Be advised no commercial pilot has ever attempted this maneuver in a wide-body aircraft. You're writing the textbook right now. Then let's hope it has a happy ending. Amethyst's hands settle on the controls. Initiating descent. Now. She banks the Boeing hard right, 30 degrees. The angle of bank that passengers feel in their bodies, that makes overhead bins groan, that triggers the primal fear of falling sideways out of the sky. The nose drops. The descent rate climbs to 3,000 feet per minute. The Boeing begins to spiral downward through the storm like a leaf caught in a drain, trading altitude for airspeed using gravity as the engine they can't fully rely on. In the cabin, the sensation is immediate and terrifying. The aircraft is turning, descending. The world outside the windows is nothing but gray violence and the sickening sense that they're corkscrewing toward the ground. Victor Chandler, still buckled in his seat, but gripping the armrest with white knuckles, screams over the sound of rattling bins and crying passengers. She's killing us. She's lost control. Edwin Murphy, strapped in 2 rows back, speaks to his wife with the calm of someone who's survived worse. No, she's saving us. This is a fighter pilot move using the storm's structure against itself. Watch. Gianna's voice is tight, calling out altitudes like a metronome. 8,000 feet, 7,000, rate of descent 3,500 feet per minute. Ma'am, that's extreme. It's controlled. Amethyst's hands make constant micro-adjustments. Watch the vertical speed indicator. I'm not exceeding structural limits. We're dancing with physics, not fighting it. Engine 1 sputters again. The N1 gauge drops to 70%, right at the threshold. The warning horn blares a continuous tone that means the engine is on the edge of failure. Come on, baby. Amethyst's voice is soft, almost tender. Just a little longer? Stay with me. 5,000 feet. 4,000. The spiral continues tightening, descending, threading through the storm's structure with the precision of someone who can see patterns in chaos. Then at 3,000 feet, the turbulence stops. Not gradually, instantly, like passing through a curtain from violence into eerie calm. We're in the eye, Amethyst announces. Gianna, level us out. Heading 130. Intercept the ILS localizer. Gianna's hands move automatically, muscle memory overriding fear. The Boeing rolls level. The descent rate stabilizes, and through the clearing, snow impossibly runway lights appear ahead. 8 miles. A string of white and red lights cutting through the gray like salvation. Peterson Tower, Flight 447, field in sight. Request landing clearance. Flight 447 cleared to land runway 13 left. Winds 330 at 40 knots, gusting to 50. Emergency foam deployed. Crash fire rescue standing by. 3 miles from touchdown, Engine 1 drops to 65% N1. Engine failing. Gianna's voice rises despite her training. Not yet, it's not. Amethyst's hand moves to the flap lever. Full flaps. Gear down. We're landing heavy and fast, 160 knots over the threshold. That's 20 knots above normal approach speed. Single engine approach speeds. Do it. The landing gear extends with a mechanical thunk, and the drag of the wheels in the slipstream. The flaps deploy in stages, changing the aircraft's shape, trading speed for lift. 1 mile out, the wind shear alarm screams. Whoop, whoop, wind shear, wind shear. Amethyst ignores it. Her hands are flying the aircraft through raw instinct, now compensating for wind that's trying to push them left, then right, then up, then down. The runway grows in the windscreen. Foam covers the concrete like snow. 50 feet, she calls out. 30, 20, 10. The main landing gear impacts the runway with a thud that rattles teeth. Hard, harder than any commercial landing should be, but controlled, deliberate. The kind of touchdown that prioritizes getting all wheels on the ground over passenger comfort. Spoilers. Amethyst's hand slams the lever forward. Wing spoilers deploy, destroying lift, pinning the aircraft to the runway. Max reverse thrust. Engine 1 roars as thrust reversers deploy, redirecting the exhaust forward, decelerating the massive aircraft. The sound is deafening, violent. Then the engine dies. N1 drops to 0. RPM gauge flatlines, no power, no thrust, just momentum carrying them forward, and the brakes trying to stop 350 tons of metal and humanity before they run out of runway. The Boeing slows 50 knots, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 0. They stop 1,500 feet from the end of the runway. Emergency foam spreads around them like a protective blanket. Fire trucks and ambulances converge with lights strobing red and blue. Silence fills the cockpit. Then, Gianna's voice broken with relief and disbelief. "We're down. Oh my God, we're down." The cabin erupts. Applause, crying, prayers shouted and whispered. Aurora Chen, 8 years old, throws her arms around Lavender Quinn and sobs with the abandon of a child who thought she was going to die and now knows she's not. Edwin Murphy raises his hand to his temple in a crisp salute toward the cockpit, acknowledging one pilot to another, respect earned through action, not words. Dr. Marina collapses against the cockpit wall, exhausted beyond anything her surgical career has prepared her for, and Victor Chandler sits in his first-class seat, face buried in his hands, silent for the first time since the crisis began. Emergency vehicles surround the aircraft within 90 seconds. Foam trucks, fire engines, ambulances, a mobile medical unit that looks more like a small hospital on wheels. Peterson Air Force Base has mobilized everything. Paramedics board through the forward door before the engines have fully spun down. They move with practiced efficiency toward the cockpit, where Dr. Marina has kept Captain Owen alive through sheer determination and 48 minutes of continuous medical intervention. "How is he?" Amethyst asks, without turning from the shutdown checklist she's completing. "Stable." Marina's voice is hoarse from giving instructions over the sound of the storm. "You gave him a chance. The hospital will do the rest." Gianna turns in her seat, tears streaming down her face. "Ma'am, thank you. I froze. I didn't know what to do. You saved us all." Amethyst removes her trembling left hand from the yoke for the last time. The tremor is more pronounced now, stress and exhaustion amplifying the nerve damage. She looks at it for a moment, then at Gianna. "You did fine, First Officer. You trusted your instincts when it mattered. That's all any pilot can do." Passengers begin deplaning slowly, many stopping to look at the woman in the worn hoodie sitting in the captain's seat. The contrast between appearance and accomplishment is so stark it rewrites their understanding of competence in real time. Edwin Murphy approaches first. His handshake is firm, despite his 76 years. "Vietnam, 68 to 71, C-130 transport. I know a combat pilot when I see one. You did your squadron proud, Captain." Amethyst smiles a genuine expression that hasn't appeared on her face since she entered the cockpit. "Thank you, sir. That means more than you know." Dr. Marina hands Amethyst a business card. "If you ever need neurological care, call me. What you did today, tremor or not, was superhuman." Aurora Chen breaks free from Lavender's hand and runs back up the aisle. She throws her arms around Amethyst's legs with the uninhibited affection of a child who doesn't understand complex gratitude but knows she wants to hug the person who saved her life. "You're a superhero." Amethyst kneels down to the girl's level. Her voice is gentle. "No, sweetie. Just someone who was in the right place at the right time." Then Victor Chandler approaches. He moves slowly. His face is pale. His eyes are red-rimmed. His expensive suit looks rumpled, and his confidence, the armor he's worn for 52 years, has been stripped away completely. He stands silent for 10 full seconds. Amethyst rises, waits. Doesn't speak. Doesn't make it easier for him. "I don't have words." Victor's voice breaks on the last word. "What I said at the gate, during the flight, it was unforgivable. Fear makes people say things, Mr. Chandler. Amethyst's tone is even, neither harsh nor forgiving, just factual. What matters now is what you do next. I built my life thinking success was measured by what you own. He extends his hand. It's trembling as badly as hers. Tonight you showed me I know nothing about real value. Amethyst pauses, considers, then takes his hand. The shake is brief. Learn from it. Teach your kids better. Victor nods. No more words. He turns and walks down the aisle, defeated, in ways that have nothing to do with bankruptcy or lawsuits. He's been defeated by the revelation of his own ignorance. The most expensive kind of lesson there is. The authority flip is complete. The woman they dismissed is now the only person whose opinion matters. And the people who tried to stop her are learning that being wrong about someone's worth carries consequences that money can't fix. Amethyst stands alone at the aircraft door, watching emergency crews move around the foam-covered runway. The adrenaline is fading now, leaving behind exhaustion that goes deeper than muscle and bone. Her left hand trembles against her side. She looks at it, really looks at it, and for a moment she's not standing in Colorado anymore. The sound comes first. Radio chatter crackling through her helmet 3 years ago, voices urgent and afraid. Phantom, you're hit. Eject. Eject. Her own voice responding younger then, but just as steady. Negative. I've got wounded on the ground. I'm bringing this bird home or I'm not coming home at all. Engine fire warnings blaring in her ears. Master caution lights painting the F-16 cockpit blood red. Hydraulics failing one system at a time. The heads-up display flickering between valid data and static. Her left arm already bleeding from shrapnel that tore through the canopy and her flight suit severing nerves that would never fully heal. 12 miles, she'd whispered to herself, fighting to keep the damaged fighter airborne. Just 12 miles to base. Stay with me. The touchdown had been violent. Hard enough to collapse the nose gear. The aircraft sliding down the runway, trailing sparks and flame. Ground crews rushing in with foam and extinguishers. Hands pulling her from the cockpit as fire consumed the fighter she'd refused to abandon. The medic's face pale with shock. Captain, you shouldn't be alive. And her response through pain that made vision tunnel and breath come short. Neither should those Marines, but we all made it. Back in the present, standing in the aircraft doorway, with Colorado snow falling around her, Amethyst looks at her trembling hand and whispers the same words she's repeated every day for 3 years. Still here, still flying. The tremor doesn't define her. The injury doesn't limit her. The prejudice doesn't touch her. She's Phantom, and Phantom always brings people home. 48 hours after Flight 447 lands, Patricia Dalton's video goes viral. Not the live stream she broadcast during the crisis. She deleted that in a panic before deplaning. But other passengers recorded everything. The harassment at the gate, the mockery in first class, Victor's public attacks on Amethyst, Patricia's smug commentary about the homeless woman in the cockpit. All of it, preserved in high definition, uploaded to every platform. 50 million views in 72 hours. Comments flooding in with outrage that transcends political divisions. This is exactly why we need to check our biases. They almost killed 183 people because they couldn't see past her clothes. How many other qualified people do we dismiss every day for the same reason? Victor Chandler's hedge fund hemorrhages clients. $200 million withdrawn in 3 days. The board convenes an emergency meeting. The vote is unanimous. Victor is removed as CEO effective immediately. His daughter Sophia, 16 years old, watches the video on her phone and refuses to speak to him for 2 weeks. When she finally does, her words cut deeper than any board resolution. Dad, how could you treat someone like that? Victor sits alone in his home office staring at his resignation letter. and the empire he built over 30 years crumbles around him. The realization comes slowly, painfully, like waking from surgery. I spent 3 decades building success on the belief that money equals worth. One woman proved me catastrophically wrong in 47 minutes. The airline's CEO holds a press conference 48 hours after the landing. The prepared statement is read with visible discomfort. We apologize unreservedly to Captain Pierce and all passengers of Flight 447. Effective immediately, we are implementing mandatory bias recognition training for all employees. We are also fast-tracking First Officer Gianna Brooks to Captain, recognizing her exceptional judgment under pressure. At Seattle International Airport, the security officer who harassed Amethyst at the gate is terminated. The chief of security resigns before he can be fired. New protocols are implemented across the entire airport system. Profiling based on appearance is grounds for immediate termination, no exceptions. Grant Thatcher lies awake at night for a week after the flight. His wife finds him in their home office at 3 a.m. staring at nothing. I spent 20 years thinking my Gulfstream passenger hours made me an expert, he tells her. Tonight, I learned I'm a fraud. The next day, he donates $500,000 to veteran aviation scholarships. It doesn't undo what he said, but it's a start. Patricia Dalton posts a public apology on Instagram. The comment section becomes a war zone, some praising her honesty, others calling it performative damage control. I was wrong. I judged someone by their clothes and nearly cost 183 people their lives. I'm taking a break from social media to reflect on who I want to be versus who I've been. She loses 200,000 followers, but the ones who remain respect her more than the ones who left. Dr. Marina Foster appears on CNN 3 days after the landing. The anchor asks about Amethyst's tremor, framing it as a medical concern rather than the disability discrimination it became. Marina's response is surgical. Captain Pierce's tremor is a badge of honor. It's proof she gave everything for her country. Judging her fitness by that injury is like judging a surgeon by scars earned while saving patients. The real disability is in how we see people, not in their bodies. 72 hours after the landing, the Pentagon holds a press briefing. General Sabira Garrett stands at the podium, military decorations covering her chest, and delivers news that makes every major network lead with the story. Captain Amethyst Pierce was declared killed in action 3 years ago after a classified extraction operation in Afghanistan. Her survival was kept secret for national security reasons related to ongoing intelligence operations. The reporters erupt with questions. General Garrett raises a hand for silence. Today, we are offering Captain Pierce full reinstatement with promotion to Lieutenant Colonel and command of the Combat Aviation Training Program at Nellis Air Force Base. Her actions on Flight 447 demonstrate that she remains one of the most capable pilots in American military history. A reporter shouts from the back, "General, what about her medical condition?" The tremor. General Garrett's expression hardens. Her condition didn't stop her from saving 183 lives in conditions that would have grounded every commercial pilot in the world. We're reevaluating our entire medical discharge policy because competence under pressure matters more than perfect health on paper. 2 weeks later, Amethyst testifies before the Senate Armed Services Committee. She wears her dress uniform. Her left hand trembles as she places it on the table. She doesn't try to hide it. The chairman asks the question everyone wants answered. Captain Pierce, your case has prompted legislation requiring the military to reconsider medical discharges based solely on specific physical conditions. How do you feel about becoming the face of that reform? Amethyst's response is measured, honest. Senator, I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to help people get home safely. But if my experience prevents other qualified service members from being discarded based on manageable conditions, I'll accept that role. The committee votes unanimously. The Veterans Medical Reassessment Act passes mandating case-by-case review of all discharged pilots, sailors, soldiers, and Marines with conditions that don't impair their core competencies. 147 former military pilots are reinstated within 6 months. 73 return to commercial aviation. 42 become flight instructors. 32 return to active duty. 3 months later, Victor Chandler stands on a subway platform during morning rush hour. He's wearing an off-the-rack suit now, works a mid-level finance job, takes public transit because he sold his cars to fund what comes next. He sees her before she sees him. Lieutenant Colonel Amethyst Pierce, in full dress uniform, surrounded by junior officers at Denver International Airport. She's laughing at something one of them said. Looks happy, fulfilled in ways that have nothing to do with net worth or status. Victor approaches slowly, waits until there's a gap in the conversation. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel Pierce. His voice is quiet. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I've started a foundation, funding flight training for veterans with medical discharges. Amethyst studies him for a long moment, sees the changes, the humility, the genuine effort at repair, but also knows that redemption isn't transactional. Mr. Chandler, redemption isn't about one grand gesture. It's about changing how you see people every day. I know. Victor nods. I'm trying. Amethyst's expression softens slightly. Then keep trying. She walks away with her officers. Victor watches her go. He'll never get back what he lost. But maybe he'll become someone worth more than what he used to be.